My name is Ava, and with the slightest change in climate, my rural home becomes infested with insects every year. I put my heart and soul into pest control. At 34 years old, I've transformed from a housewife into nothing less than a hunter. Once upon a time, bugs used to scare me. I used to say such things without any embarrassment, but once I passed 30, I started facing them with a poker face. Indeed, I've become quite tough. Today, I'd like to share a story about how I dealt with my younger sister who fell in love with my husband. This happened years ago, back when I was in my 20s. A junior high school reunion was held for the first time in many years, where I reconnected with my childhood friend Josh, who used to live in my neighborhood during elementary school. My sister Emily, 2 years younger than me, and I used to play with Josh a lot. But as typical boy sentiments grew stronger, playing with girls became embarrassing for him. Josh distanced himself from us when his family moved away in junior high, and we lost touch. At the reunion, I was nervous when reconnecting with Josh, but adulthood brought its strong ally, alcohol. Josh, loosened by its power, and I, emboldened by the same, had a lively conversation that was hard to believe after such a long time apart. We continued to party together, and by the end of the night, Josh confessed, "I used to like you when we were kids, and it seems like I can still like you as an adult." With this light-hearted exchange, our relationship began. Later, when sober, Josh joked, "Man, I said too much. Am I embarrassing? Who the hell do I think I am?" I couldn't help but laugh at his embarrassment. Everything fell into place, and we decided to get married. We visited each other's homes and completed the formalities for cohabitation and marriage planned for 6 months later. However, a problem arose at my house when Josh came to meet my family over a meal. As my sister returned home from work with a deflated voice, her surprise at seeing Josh turned quickly into a happy expression. "Wow, Josh, why are you here?" Embarrassed, Josh glanced at me and then explained, "Actually, we've been dating for about half a year now, and we've decided to get married. I came here today to inform our parents." I thought I should explain to my family, so I told my sister the circumstances. Her face turned visibly grim. "I see. I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. Good night," she said abruptly, retreating to her room and slamming the door shut. Wow, that was unpleasant," I said to Josh, worried that I had made him uncomfortable. But he reassured me with a smile. "I'm not bothered by it." Wanting to clear things up for my sister's sake, I added, "She's not usually like that. Maybe she's just not happy about us living together." Even our parents didn't show any problems, so I couldn't understand my sister's strong reaction. Still puzzled, I debated whether to ask her directly, but as I headed to the bath, I ran into her in the hallway. I started, unsure how to begin, as she fixed me with a devilish glare. "I can't believe you're marrying Josh. I've always loved him too. I'll never forgive you for this." With the rage of a demon, she stumped away, leaving me staring at her unexpected confession. Seriously, she was in love with Josh. I muttered to myself, feeling like the plot was straight out of a daytime drama, holding my head in disbelief. After a night of restless tossing and turning, I finally found clarity. Is it really a problem if my sister loves my fiancé? After all, our marriage is already decided. If Josh had loved my sister, it would have been a different story, but that's not the case. More importantly, if she's felt this way since childhood, she should have told him sooner. Realizing it was my sister's failure to express her feelings that caused this turmoil, I decided it was absurd for her to blame me. Though I could sense her growing hostility towards me as her older sister, I chose to let it slide. Despite the gravity of the situation, I opted for an optimistic view and decided to let it go. However, I was torn about whether to tell Josh. On one hand, revealing my sister's feelings might complicate things for Josh, I reasoned. But if I don't tell him, he'll sense the tension whenever he visits without understanding why. Considering Josh's involvement, I ultimately decided honesty was the best policy. "I have to tell him," I resolved. When I finally did, Josh listened attentively and reassured me, "Tell me if anything happens. I'll handle it." "True, it's a sister issue," I acknowledged, relieved by Josh's understanding. "If she gets too aggressive, maybe I'll use you as a shield," I joked nervously. "Don't joke like that," Josh chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. With our decision made, neither of us wavered in our commitment to marry. Convincing my sister was not our aim. We simply accepted the situation. From then on, as expected, my sister's animosity towards me only grew. On one occasion, after she used the bathroom before me, she left it messy without cleaning up. This isn't a big deal. It's just a shower, I sighed, trying to brush it off. I could even afford to joke about how cute my little sister was for pulling such a modest, shabby prank. However, having my makeup and wallet hidden before heading to work was a real blow. I don't have time for a treasure hunt in the morning, I muttered, desperately searching for them. Trembling at the thought of being late, I barely made it to work on time twice in 1 week. You're not slacking off with your wedding coming up, are you? My boss eyed me coldly, adding to my frustration. I won't forgive her. No, I'm the big sister. I should forgive her. But I won't. No, I muttered to myself, conflicted. Initially, my parents were unaware of my sister's harassment, but after she started hiding my valuables, they began to notice something was off. Why are you doing such childish things? My mother scolded my sister, though my sister seemed to revel in annoying me. The real issue, however, was my father. Ever since my sister was born and my mother's health declined, he had cared for her as if she were still a newborn. He doted on her more than me, or rather, he was biased towards her. His experience in parenting had made him feel like a mother, and I couldn't fault him for that. I, too, loved my sister, especially considering the tough times we grew up in together. Reflecting on our different treatment, I recall the childhood incident when I had wanted to go to an amusement park, but she had insisted on the aquarium. My father, always siding with her, promptly decided on the aquarium. I remembered my mother, always checking if I was okay with his decisions, asking, "Are you sure it's okay not to go to the amusement park?" Honestly, I don't harbor any bitter memories of my father's favoritism towards my sister, but if my mother hadn't balanced things out, I might have felt inferior. Plus, at the time, even my friends remarked about how my sister received more affection. I didn't dwell on it. I simply accepted that there was a bias in love everywhere. Maybe it's just my inherently optimistic personality. I always look for reasons not to feel down. But this time, my father clearly took my sister's side. Apparently, she accused Josh of stealing her boyfriend, which in my father's eyes painted Josh as the villain. I understood his protective stance, imagining the plight of the sister who was left behind while her elder sister was about to get married. In response to my father's thoughts, my mother intervened, saying, "I don't see Josh as the kind of person who would do such a thing," voicing her skepticism. "No, that's not true. Listen to my opinion," I countered, hoping they would consider both sides fairly. My mother, known for not taking our words at face value and judging us fairly, tried to mediate. But my father's protective instincts overruled reason. I can't bear to see my poor sister dumped, and even my elder daughter being played with, he insisted adamantly. "I won't allow this man to take advantage of my beloved daughters. Wake up." It felt like I was being pushed into a corner, unable to make my voice heard amidst my father's firm convictions. Though he loved us deeply, his favoritism caused a strain this time. The growing opposition to my marriage troubled me deeply. So, I made a decision. I would leave home earlier than planned and live with Josh. Simply put, if the issue stemmed from my sister, distancing myself seemed the best solution. If I'm not at home, I won't be harassed. Problem solved, I reasoned, finding peace in the decision. And indeed, our life together passed peacefully after that. As days went by, my mother softened her stance, acknowledging, "I think your side of the story is probably right. You're an adult now. Do as you like, live freely." Surprisingly, my father remained silent, though dissatisfied. Deep down, he probably thought that even if Josh and I broke up, I would be pitiful, and he couldn't fathom Josh turning to my sister. I suppose my father thought it was the best solution. I felt sorry for Josh, unfairly painted as a villain, but with no word for my troublesome sister. I thought everything had settled. Then came the wedding day. As expected, my sister didn't attend, and my father took the opportunity to suggest, "It's not too late to reconsider your decision to marry. Marriage comes with all sorts of challenges, so be prepared." My mother, always mild-mannered, added, "Needless to say, really?" In the background, my father looked pale. Not everyone might have blessed us from the bottom of their hearts, but under our parents' watchful eyes, we exchanged vows. The next day, the intercom of our home chimed loudly. "What's going on?" Josh and I jumped up, rushing to the monitor. To our surprise, my family was visiting us, Dad, Mom, and even Emily. "What's going on?" I asked, bewildered, as my younger sister glared at me with sharp eyes. I kept quiet, but she continued, "I'm pregnant with Josh's child. You have to take responsibility." "What does this mean?" I blurted out in shock. Fortunately, we don't have a child yet. You can't just force us to break up and marry Josh. Ignoring my protests, she persisted, you should give Josh to her. Confused, my mother intervened, asking, what's going on? Josh, still half asleep, stumbled to the front door behind me. What? My child? He shook his head vehemently. No, it's not like that. We didn't do anything like that. His denial was almost comically emphatic. I know. You should stop this panic. It's suspicious, I added, trying to hold back laughter. How many months pregnant are you? My sister pressed on, undeterred. 2 months. If Josh doesn't take responsibility, this child will be fatherless. Isn't that pitiful, Mom? Startled by my sister's sudden revelation, my mother looked between us, clearly uncertain of how to respond. Josh and I exchanged amused looks, struggling to contain our laughter. Ha ha ha, I chuckled nervously, trying to explain our laughter to our confused parents who couldn't grasp the reason behind it. What are you laughing at? My sister Emily asked, flustered by our sudden outburst. Well, 2 months ago, I started, tears welling up from laughing too hard. We had fun last time, didn't we? Josh interjected, catching my sister off guard with his unexpected question. My parents remained perplexed, their expressions filled with disapproval as they didn't understand Josh's playful intentions. I was probably the only one who caught on to his subtle plan. By the way, Emily, how many abs do I have? Josh continued, throwing another curveball. Ha! Emily looked blank, clearly puzzled. I was on the verge of bursting into laughter again. Josh, are you serious? Talking about your abs like you've lost them, I managed to say between giggles. What are you talking about, Josh? Emily asked, clearly bewildered. The correct answer is 0. I was about to confirm that Josh was just teasing when he solemnly confessed, I actually have no abs. Even my mom couldn't help but chuckle at his antics. It seemed like a contest to see who could make the other laugh the most. Here's question 2. Have you seen my moles? How many do I have in total? Josh continued, his strange questions leaving my sister at a loss for words. Hey, wait, what? Emily stammered, unsure how to respond. Josh persisted with his playful interrogation, leaving my sister flustered. Well, that's to be expected, I thought, seeing Josh's mischievous grin and my sister's confused expression. It was like a game to him, delighting in teasing her and watching her struggle to answer. Despite knowing she could end it by denying everything, Josh seemed to enjoy keeping her on her toes. In fact, even my mother began to suspect something was amiss. Isn't there something odd about their relationship? She murmured quietly, observing the dynamic between my sister and Josh. Of course, I thought, realizing that such banter wouldn't be possible if they were genuinely intimate. Moreover, it would be too embarrassing in front of our parents. The very act of having such a light-hearted conversation was proof that nothing had actually happened between them. Josh was simply enjoying his own way of playfully teasing Emily like a child with a new toy. It was both amusing and slightly unsettling. What a mischievous man he could be. I watched closely, wondering how my sister would react to Josh's playful banter. She pondered the second question, visibly tense. On like 10, she finally answered, nervously guessing. Buzz. Sorry, the correct answer is I don't even know, Josh proclaimed dramatically. Even my father couldn't contain his laughter, doubling over in amusement. At the same time, to cover his amusement, he feigned frustration. Love is enough, Josh. Don't you dare joke around after causing my daughter such distress. My father interjected sternly, preparing to scold Josh. Wait, listen, I interjected, trying to diffuse the tension. You said the pregnancy was 2 months along, right? Considering the conception period, there's no way the child could be Josh's. What do you mean? My mother asked, intrigued by my point. Can I say it? I glanced at Josh, who reluctantly nodded with a deeply embarrassed expression. Wait, hold on. Can I say it? Can you? Josh stammered nervously. Oh yeah, I'll do it, I replied, despite the awkwardness. Josh puffed out his chest bravely. Mom and Dad. The truth is, during that time, I was stung by a bee in a very sensitive area. At this revelation, everyone, even my sister, burst out laughing uncontrollably. That's enough of the lies, Josh. There's no way you were stung there, my father exclaimed, torn between anger and amusement, while my mother laughed uproariously, clapping her hands. No, well, it's embarrassing, but it's true, Josh insisted, his face and ears turning bright red rapidly. It was hot, so I thought I'd cool off. Taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't be seen from outside, I opened the window and was relaxing in the nook when a bee flew in and stung me. I struggled to contain my laughter, trying to respect Josh's embarrassment in front of my family, but it was too hilarious not to join in. There's no way a man could be that embarrassing, my father chuckled, shaking his head. Well, that embarrassingly embarrassing man is right here, Josh retorted loudly, trying to defend himself. That still doesn't prove that the child in my belly isn't from Josh's seed, my sister interjected, regaining her stance and joining the conversation with renewed vigor. Emily, think about it, I reasoned. Josh got stung in a very important place. Dad, imagine if that happened to you as a man. You'd understand the pain of having such a vital area harmed. My sister fell silent, considering my serious tone. Meanwhile, my father, who seemed to have visualized the situation based on Josh's explanation, quietly clutched his groin and looked down thoughtfully. Though he tried to maintain a stern face, it was clear he was starting to believe Josh's unlikely tale. It's a really delicate area for men, so it was tough. I even thought about calling an ambulance, Josh concluded, his embarrassment evident despite his attempt at humor. I couldn't help but respond to Josh's story with embarrassment. I had a fever, it was tough, and doing the deed in that state would be way too kinky. You can even check with the hospital that took care of me if you want, Josh explained in an almost inaudible voice. To my surprise, my mother burst into laughter. Josh, didn't you used to have a habit of taking off your swimsuit when you played in a kiddie pool? She teased, approaching him with playful curiosity. Why don't you show me where you were stung? Josh tried to dodge my mother's playful inquiry, covering not his private area, but his irrelevant chest. From what I saw, my mother seemed to fully trust him now, which gave me a sense of relief, although Josh didn't seem to share the same feeling. Well, I sympathize as a man. I don't think anyone would lie about such an embarrassing thing. There's no need to check with the hospital, my father chimed in, his expression unusually kind towards Josh, as if respecting his dignity. Ironically, it seemed that understanding came quicker among men in this situation. I wondered if this was what they called a blessing in disguise. Amidst this light-hearted banter, I turned to my sister, who stood in a daze. Even if you lie like this, it won't lead to Josh and me getting divorced. I think you're just making yourself more miserable, I said calmly. You may not believe me, but I really want you to be happy. After all, you're my only sister. My sister's eyes widened in anger. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I don't like Josh anymore. If he's going to take your side, she snapped, emotional and reaching out to grab me. I don't care if you don't like me. I love Ava, and that's all that matters, Josh firmly asserted, brushing off my sister's hand. I consider Emily a precious childhood friend and now my sister-in-law. I never have and never will see her as anything more. If you keep repeating these lies, I'll defend Ava with all my strength. I couldn't help but feel moved by his words. He had come a long way from the man who was embarrassed by a bee sting, muttering about the world being his enemy. Watching this unfold, my father intervened. Emily, if you're really pregnant, show us your medical records or something, he requested, his tone serious. With that, my parents made it clear they had believed Emily's pregnancy claims without any basis. I appreciated their unquestioning trust in their children, though this time it seemed to have backfired. If you've lied, you owe both of them an apology, my mother added sternly. My sister, visibly shaken and biting her lip, turned away with tears in her eyes. My father moved to follow her, but my mother stopped him. Let her go and cool off, she advised. 2 weeks passed. My sister continued to insist she was pregnant, but my mother finally persuaded her to visit a gynecologist. The diagnosis, no signs of pregnancy and perfectly good health. We're sorry for dubbing you and causing you so much trouble, my parents apologized sincerely. We should have trusted Josh, whom we've known for so long. Please take care of Ava and forgive us for making this difficult for you both. They bowed their heads apologetically. To be honest, I couldn't blame my parents. I haven't discussed the strained relationship with my sister with my parents. They have always believed in their daughters without question, a quality that society might view in various ways, but for me it has been a source of immense reassurance. Despite occasional favoritism towards my sister, especially from my father, I have come to forgive them for the mistakes they made. They raised me well, and without them, I wouldn't have met Josh or lived such a happy life. When my sister's lie about being pregnant was exposed, she reacted angrily, declaring, "I don't need this family anymore," and stormed out of the house. Normally, my father would have gone after her, but this time he suggested it might be better for Emily to take some time away, a cooling off period. My mother agreed, adding firmly, "If she can't come back and sincerely apologize, we won't let her back into this house." Deep down, I doubted my sister would ever apologize sincerely. It felt like a definitive break between us. 7 years passed. My sister did return once, bowing her head to her parents and asking to come back. Initially noble in her return, by the end of the year she had caused a significant incident while heavily intoxicated. One tumultuous New Year's Eve, she sneaked into Josh's bed, mistaking it for mine, and startled him awake. Both of us, along with our parents, were shocked by the disturbance. "Don't approach him," I warned her angrily. Josh, startled, exclaimed loudly enough to wake the neighbors. "Oh!" My parents, usually composed, jumped up in surprise. It was a scene that revealed the extent of my sister's issues. In her drunken state, she blurted out, "I'm tired of seeing you two always together. It's okay for him to spend time with me." I was furious and demanded she get her act together. Even my parents, usually gentle, expressed unprecedented anger. My father, who had once adored my sister, was visibly disgusted. "I didn't raise a child who would attack a man in his sleep," he declared sternly. "I'll never forget this." Despite my sister's tearful apologies once she sobered up, my father remained resolute. "Your actions when drunk reveal your true feelings. I can't trust anything you say anymore." With that, my parents disowned her. It was a painful but necessary decision. Meanwhile, I discovered I was pregnant for the first time shortly before this turbulent New Year's Eve. Since then, I've given birth to 3 children, including twins, making me a mother of 4 by the age of 34. Life with 4 children is chaotic, walls scribbled with crayons, daily struggles with clothes and toothbrushing, but seeing their sleeping faces each night makes it all worthwhile. My parents adore their grandchildren, often visiting to help with childcare. Josh, too, is deeply involved, despite the challenges. He handles the chaos with a smile, even as he worries about his thinning hair from constant hair pulling during piggyback rides. I find it amusing and endearing to see Josh grappling with hair loss. With his promotion and improved salary, he could afford treatments, but I secretly enjoy watching him embrace fatherhood in all its messy glory. Our home is far from quiet and calm. It's lively and noisy, but I couldn't be happier.